Hello, I'm Graham Elwood, and welcome to the Church of Batman. Today I want to talk about the fallout of the election. It's been about 6 weeks maybe since the election happened. So what is there to take away from this? So first of all, you have the fact that the Democrats didn't pay attention to the working class people of America, the Rust Belt, the people who don't necessarily have college educations, but they work for a living. That's that group of people, right? The working class people. This is true, and the Democrats have decided to kind of not take responsibility for why they failed. But here's the thing, and I'm going to say this a lot on this show. You're going to hear me say it's not either or, it's both a lot on this show. And this is a great example. So the left has called a lot of the Trump voters just racist or dumb or both. And the Trump people have said, well, the Democrats didn't pay attention to Rust Belt voters because there's a lot of counties that voted for Obama twice that then voted for Trump. And why did this happen? So it's both. If you voted for Trump, and you might say, I'm not racist at all. I'm not a racist. I just was tired of whatever. I don't like Hillary, or we need to get more manufacturing jobs back here. If you don't recognize the fact that you supported a guy that had very racist policies and is still saying these things, and this isn't the liberal media conspiracy. The media is not liberal. It's corporate media. You supported a guy that wants to ban an entire religion and referred to a majority of Mexicans as rapists and drug dealers. You can't dismiss that as just crazy campaign talk. But let's put that aside for a second. Let's talk about actually what the Democrats have done wrong. And they don't seem to be learning from their mistakes. So Hillary did not connect with a lot of working class people. She didn't campaign in Wisconsin and a couple of the other swing states. And the Democratic Party has really, it's not a liberal progressive party. I'm a liberal progressive, but I'm not a Democrat because the Democratic Party hasn't, it's abandoned liberal progressives, and it should be the populist party. It should be the party of the working person, but it has become a corporate party. And the thing that needs to happen if you're if you call yourself a liberal progressive, whether you call yourself a Democrat or not, but your ideas, your ideology is liberal and progressive, you have to look at you have to take some responsibility. Look at what your part in this was. What was the Democratic's part in this? And the Democratic Party, one of the reasons I haven't been a huge supporter of them for years is they've been hijacked by the Clintons. I voted for Jerry Brown in the primary in '92, and Bill Clinton defeated him. And I remember I was young, I voted for Bill Clinton. I was like, well, we've had 12 years of Republicans at that point in '92. We had, 2 terms of Reagan and 1 term of George H.W. Bush. And so we needed to defeat this. And I was like, no, I'm not a big fan of Clinton. And then Clinton passed policies that were Republican policies. I mean, NAFTA, the 3 strikes rule that put 100,000 or more black men in jail, and he was a Republican. That's why I didn't vote for him in '96. In '96, I voted for the Libertarian candidate. And this is the thing that liberal progressives, if you're mad at what happened at this election, or you're just feeling like, what do we do, man? This is nonsense. You can't just say all the Trump people are racist and then that's it. And I'm not excusing any of Trump or any of his supporters or anything, but look at yourself first. And what has the Democratic Party done or not done? First of all, if you're a Hillary supporter, you have to take responsibility for the fact that she rigged the primary. You can't pretend that didn't happen, and you can't just go, oh, you burn bros. You can't do that. That's a mistake. Blaming the Bernie supporters for this loss, or blaming the third party, like blaming Jill Stein, it's like blaming World War II on Belgium. So first, look to yourself. Look at this fact. If Bernie would have won the Democratic primary the way Hillary did, if the head of the DNC was a man, and there was email evidence showing basically how within the Democratic Party they conspired to give Bernie the nomination. If there were, like, Alaska's a great example. Alaska's a state that voted for Bernie, but the superdelegate, who was a woman, gave her votes, her delegate votes, to Hillary. That happened a bunch of places. The superdelegates, and I've heard some people, friends of mine who are liberals, say, well then, but isn't it the party's right to choose how they run a primary? Well, my thing with that is, there's two things. First of all, if you want to then don't have an election. Just the Democrats should just get in behind closed doors and say, this is our candidate, and do it out there. Versus this sort of fake election that is rigged. Because here's the thing with elections. Tax dollars pay for them. Your tax dollars paid for the Republican and Democratic primaries. It paid for the general election. All of the infrastructure in place, the polling, the materials that are mailed to you, all that stuff, how the ballots are tallied, that's all taxpayer dollars that handle that. So right there, you have to say that this is how she got the nomination was wrong. And I saw some people tweeting online, some of them even friends of mine, comedians, mostly women, who are like, oh, you know, Bernie lost, you burn bros, just accept the election results. Does that sound familiar? That's what the Trump people have been saying since the election. He lost the general. He didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. And then all of these Trump people who were saying the system's rigged, Trump and many of his people were saying it was rigged in October. Then when he won the electoral, which I think the Electoral College should be abandoned as a wrong system, they all said the same thing. Oh, just accept that you liberals are a bunch of crybabies. And I heard some Hillary people say the same thing in June. So you've got to take responsibility for that. Again, I'm not excusing any of his xenophobic, racist rhetoric. And I'll do even a separate episode about that and how dangerous his rhetoric is. But we have to, as liberal progressives, we have to take responsibility for that. You might not have liked Bernie. You might not have you thought, oh, he's too out there, he's too socialist, he's too old, whatever. But how she got the nomination was unfair. And also, she just said, I'm next after Obama won. I'm going to be the next president. I'm going to be the first female president. She lost in 2008. She had her chance. Why did she get a second chance? Why did she get a second chance? Mitt Romney didn't get a second chance. John Kerry didn't get a second chance. John McCain didn't get a second chance. Al Gore didn't get a second chance. Bob Dole didn't get a second chance. Mondale didn't get a second chance. Nobody got a second chance. They ran, and if they lost, they lost. And she ran in 2008, and she lost. Why did she get a second chance? Why did she just say me and only me? And look who she ran against in the primary. Bernie Sanders spent a year saying somebody run against the Clintons, somebody run against her, somebody run against her. I'm too old, I'm too crazy, hippie, independent in Vermont. And no one would. Why didn't Elizabeth Warren run? I would love to see Elizabeth Warren. So, and I understand up to a point. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, so I can't sit here and say, boo-hoo, girls. I'm not saying that. I don't know what it's like to say, no one who's like me has ever been president. I don't know what that's like. I'm a man. All the presidents have been men. Now, I'm Irish Catholic. I've only had one actual Irish Catholic president, and they put a bullet in his head and they killed his brother just for thinking about running. But I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's so hard being a white male. But that notion of just, it has to be her, and if you are against her, you're a sexist, you're a misogynist. I know a lot of women who were Bernie supporters that were offended by that. Her campaign was, I'm with her. Obama ran on hope and change. She just said, I'm with her. And I understand too. To just say, oh, you liberals lost and you got to listen to the right and the middle class. That's not very accurate either, because she got 65.8 million votes to Trump's 62.9 million. She got 2.9 million more votes than him. She had 48.2% of the vote. He had 46.1% of the vote. So there are more liberal progressives than there are conservatives. and you add in the 1.3 million votes that Jill Stein got, or the 4.3 million Gary Johnson got, and another 400,000 or 500,000 in just other third-party candidates, there was 6 million people. So you take that 6 million with her 65.8, now you're looking at 71, 72 million people that didn't vote for Donald Trump. And you take the 100 million people that didn't even decided to vote at all. That's 170 some million people that didn't vote for Trump. So what do we do if you're a liberal progressive? Just sitting there blaming the Trump supporters is not, you can't do that. You have to look within. And I'm not saying, oh, it's all my fault. Ask yourself. I have to do this with anything. I have to ask myself, where did I fail? Me personally, I don't think I've stayed involved politically over the last 8 years. I was way involved after 9/11. And then Obama got elected and I went, oh yeah, we're all right, you know? And I didn't pay attention because, you know, he has someone from Citibank in his cabinet. He has something almost close to 11 Goldman Sachs people in his cabinet. So we have to pay really close attention what's going on here. He's currently bombing Yemen in a proxy war against Iran with Saudi Arabia. So we all need to pay attention. We all need to take what's our responsibility and deal with it. I'm going to do another video where I'm going to talk about what the Trump supporters need to think about, because they don't just get to skate by. But us as liberal progressives, we need to take responsibility for that and realize that there isn't just one thing. It wasn't just the FBI or just Jill Stein or just the Electoral College or just this. It was a bunch of things that contributed to this. And the Democratic Party is not a liberal progressive party. It's a party of basically Republican platforms. And we need to do something about that. And I'm going to give some more ideas on these videos on how we can do that. So my name's Graham Elwood, and thank you for watching The Church of Batman.